The man had just moved goods worth $300 million into the warehouse. The very next second, the supplies traveled through a black hole in time and landed right on top of an ancient queen. The Duke, presiding over the ritual, thought they were under attack and immediately went on high alert. But the queen just stared blankly at the food in her hands. After confirming it was safe to eat, everyone instantly began celebrating with joy. But because they had lost the war and suffered 6 months of drought, the people of the Queen's nation had not eaten their fill in a long time. Even the Queen could only survive on small bowls of rice water. To keep the million residents of the city alive, the Queen decided to perform a ritual to seek help from God. Meanwhile, on the other side, the man, ever since his parents passed away, had been left alone with the factory his father left behind. He had planned to pay off the debts using the products made by the factory. But what he didn't expect was that right after he set down a box of supplies, the next second, the supplies disappeared right before his eyes. As an educated young man from the 21st century, he didn't believe in souls or anything supernatural. To figure out why the supplies vanished, he immediately took the rest of the supplies and threw them all into the warehouse. But the warehouse was like a black hole. No matter how much he threw in, it never filled up. Staring at the empty warehouse in front of him, the man fell deep into thought. He had no idea where his supplies had gone. What he didn't know was that the warehouse had already connected to the world 1,000 years ago, and the other side was right in front of the queen. Seeing more food fly out from the altar, the queen believed it was a gift from God. After confirming it was usable, she immediately ordered her people to distribute it to the citizens. But this food still wasn't enough to save everyone in the city. What's more, what they lacked was not only food, but also water. But to thank God for his grace, the queen ordered her servants to bring treasures from her collection and took out a large amount of gold, dumping it all into the altar before her. Meanwhile, as the man grew anxious over the missing supplies, a loud commotion suddenly came from outside the door. After hearing what they were saying, he realized they were all creditors demanding money. Thinking about the $3 million his father owed, he told his security to hold them off for now while he stayed behind to think of a solution. Watching the guards leave, the man felt even more restless because he had no idea where to find the missing supplies. But just then, in the very place where he had set the supplies, a pile of gold suddenly appeared. After confirming the gold was real, he immediately took it to a gold shop and sold it for $5 million. When he returned to the factory and saw the creditors still making trouble, he threw the suitcase he was carrying onto the ground right in front of them and said plainly that this was the money he owed them. He told them that once they got the money, they should leave immediately. The creditors, after receiving the money, instantly changed their attitude and became friendly, even trying to flatter him and ask for forgiveness. But the man flatly refused. At this moment, he had already realized the benefits of exchanging supplies. So that same night, he rushed to the warehouse hoping to trade more food for more gold. But no matter how loudly he called out, there was no reply from inside the warehouse. This made him start doubting whether he had imagined everything. Meanwhile, the queen wanted God to continue helping them get water, so she once again knelt before the altar with all the dukes. But after 2 hours, the altar still showed no response. Just as the queen was about to give up, a man's voice suddenly came from the altar. Thinking God was giving an order, the queen immediately knelt before the altar again and solemnly prayed to God once more, hoping God would grant them rain. At that moment, the man had already learned from her prayer about the queen's true identity. Reading the information about her on his phone, he finally realized that his family's warehouse was connected to the ancient past 1,000 years ago, and the queen's final fate was to be killed by the king of another nation. To change her tragic ending, he decided on the spot to help her. But since he had just paid off his father's debts, he no longer had extra money to buy water. Thinking about the gold from that morning, he immediately told the queen that he could provide her with enough water, but he needed a lot of money in return. After hearing this, the queen took off the jade pendant she was wearing and told him to use it to exchange for money. Seeing the jade suddenly appear, the man widened his eyes in shock because this was something from 1,000 years ago. You have to understand, at the last auction, a bowl from 1,000 years ago sold for at least $100 million, and the jade in his hands belonged to the queen herself, which had to be worth even more. With the pendant in hand, he kept his promise and dragged water pipes to the warehouse. When he turned the water on, at the same time, water began gushing from the altar before the queen. Seeing such clear water, everyone was overjoyed, believing it was all God's blessing. They wanted to give all the water to the soldiers first, but the queen refused because there were still 1 million civilians behind them. But just as the water problem was finally solved, the queen's servant rushed over in a panic and brought a piece of news that terrified everyone.